Prophet Yusuf alayhissalam was the son of Prophet Yaqub alayhissalam. Prophet Yusuf alayhissalam had 11 brothers. He was one of the youngest and possessed excellent character and manners. His father loved him dearly. Prophet Yusuf alayhissalam once dreamt that 11 stars and the sun and moon were prostrating to him. He related the dream to his father. Prophet Yaqub alayhissalam realized that the dream outlined his son's destiny and greatness and cautioned him not to tell his brothers about the dream. His brothers were jealous of the favor that he enjoyed in their father's eyes and planned to somehow get rid of him. Whenever they took their goats out for grazing, they would ask their father if Yusuf alayhissalam could accompany them. Prophet Yaqub alayhissalam always refused, saying that the boy was too young. When Prophet Yusuf alayhissalam reached the age of 16, his brothers insisted that he was now old enough to accompany them. With reluctance, their father agreed to let them take him with them. As soon as they were far enough from home, they began to plot about how to dispose of Prophet Yusuf alayhissalam. Then, they came across a dry well. They removed Prophet Yusuf's alayhissalam shirt and threw him into the well. Ignoring their young brother's pleas, they heartlessly left him to die of hunger. On the way back, they slaughtered a goat and stained Prophet Yusuf's alayhissalam shirt with its blood. They arrived home weeping and told their father that while they were grazing their sheep, a wolf came and ate their brother. He did not believe their story and could do nothing but remain patient and wait for Allah to reunite him with his beloved son. Meanwhile, a caravan of traders passing by the well stopped to draw some water. They were surprised to see Prophet Yusuf alayhissalam come up holding the bucket. They hid him with their merchandise and sold him to some slave traders for a few pieces of silver. Prophet Yusuf alayhissalam in Egypt. Thus Prophet Yusuf alayhissalam arrived in Egypt. At the slave market, the buyers were all attracted by him, because he was a very handsome young man. News of this remarkable youth swept through the city. The Aziz, governor of Egypt and chief officer of the king, whose name was Potiphar, offered a price that none could match. He brought Prophet Yusuf alayhissalam home and told his wife Zuleika that they would adopt him as their son. Zuleika, however, was so taken by Prophet Yusuf's alayhissalam beauty that she sought to have an illegal association with him. A prophet of Allah could never be part of such an evil deed, and Prophet Yusuf alayhissalam backed away from the advances of Zuleika. As he raced for the door, she ripped his shirt from behind. At the door they met the Aziz. On seeing her husband, Zuleika tried to blame Yusuf alayhissalam by claiming that he had tried to lay a hand on her. Before the Aziz could vent his fury on Prophet Yusuf, a baby spoke up from the cradle, and the Holy Quran says, and a witness from her own household testified, if his shirt is torn from the front, then she speaks the truth and he is of the liars. And if his shirt is torn from behind, then she lies and he is of the truthful ones. And the Aziz was extremely angry with his wife for attempting such an act of indecency. The women of the city heard about Zuleika's actions and began to gossip and make fun of her. To explain her attraction, she decided to let them see Prophet Yusuf themselves. She called 40 of them to the palace for a meal. As soon as they all had a knife to cut some fruit, she called Prophet Yusuf into the room on some excuse. So dazzled were they by his beauty and presence, that they cut their fingers in their distraction and exclaimed, "This is not a human being, he must be an angel." Zuleika was furious with Prophet Yusuf alayhissalam because he had caused her to be ridiculed. In her anger and frustration, she caused him to be imprisoned on false charges of assault. Prophet Yusuf alayhissalam imprisoned due to continued pressure from his wife Zuleika. The Aziz of Egypt decided to imprison Prophet Yusuf alayhissalam, despite his innocence. The reason he gave was that people would forget the actions of his wife while Prophet Yusuf alayhissalam lay in prison, and her dignity would be restored. On the same day that Prophet Yusuf alayhissalam was put into prison, 2 other men were also imprisoned. One used to serve the king wine, while the other was the royal cook. Both men had been accused of trying to poison the king. On the following day, the wine server said to Prophet Yusuf, "I saw in a dream that I was crushing grapes to make wine for the king." The cook said, "I dreamt that I was carrying some bread in a basket on my head and birds were pecking at the bread." Both men saw that Prophet Yusuf alayhissalam was a noble and pious person and asked him if he could interpret their dreams. Prophet Yusuf alayhissalam took this opportunity to preach the religion of Allah to his prison mates. He promised to tell them the meaning of their dreams and informed them that this was a special power given to him by Allah before he did so. However, he explained to them how senseless it was to believe in various gods and explained to them about the oneness of Allah and the day of resurrection. Finally he said, "O my prison mates! The man who dreamt that he was crushing grapes will soon be released from here and will go back to his previous post. The second one, who carried the bread on his head in the dream, will be executed and the birds will start to eat his brain." Prophet Yusuf thought of getting himself released from prison through the wine server, and told him to remind the king of his innocence when he saw him. The dreams of both men came true just as he had foretold. One of the captives was released while the other was hanged. Unfortunately, the wine server forgot all that Prophet Yusuf ﷺ had told him to convey to the king. Holy Quran says, "The king dreamt that 7 lean cows were eating 7 fat ones and that there were 7 green ears of corn and 7 dry ones." He asked the nobles to tell him the meaning of his dream if they were able to. They replied, "It is a confused dream and we do not know the meaning of such dreams." 44 The king was very concerned about the meaning of his dream, and even though his wise men thought over it seriously, they could not make sense of it. The king's dream became a means of the liberation of Prophet Yusuf ﷺ from prison. As soon as the wine server heard about the dream, he was reminded of his time in prison and remembered the powers of his cellmate. He also remembered that Prophet Yusuf ﷺ had asked him to tell the king of his innocence. He approached the king and got his permission to see Prophet Yusuf ﷺ. Prophet Yusuf interpreted the dream by the power given to him by Allah. He said, "For 7 years the crops will yield abundant food grain for the people of Egypt. After that there will be a famine for 7 years, during which all the food grain lying in the storehouses will be finished and people will starve. Therefore, the people should try to grow as much extra grain as possible so that it would stand them in good stead during the time of famine." On hearing this very reasonable and sensible interpretation of his dream from the wine server, the king was delighted. He ordered that Prophet Yusuf be brought before him so he could make good use of his wisdom in solving his problems. Although he had been in the dark dungeon for so long, Prophet Yusuf ﷺ refused to leave the prison until he proved his innocence. He said to the courtiers, "I will not come out of the prison until the king makes inquiries about my case. Tell the king to ask the wives of the noble men about the time when they cut their fingers on seeing me." The courtiers passed on this message to the king, who called the concerned women to him for an explanation. They all confessed the truth, and Zulika, the wife of the Aziz, also testified that Prophet Yusuf was innocent of any guilt. Thus, Prophet Yusuf ﷺ was released from the prison with his dignity and honor restored.